Saturday at the Texas Pinball Festival 2015 is in the books. I am losing my voice, but that's okay, because tonight on episode 150 of Coast to Coast Pinball, you're going to get to go back in time to our live seminar with a special guest. And that guest being Mr. Mark Ritchie. That'll be episode 150. Let's go. Welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast commentary. I am a man out of quarters. Tonight on episode 150 of Coast to Coast Pinball, look how far we've come, I have the great pleasure of bringing to you a not live from the Texas Pinball Festival Coast to Coast Pinball episode that we did this evening. It's Mark Ritchie and I for about 45 minutes talking about his career, talking about his thoughts on some current topics in pinball, and just sort of hanging out with Mark Ritchie. And I really appreciate both Ed Vanderveen and the Texas Pinball crew for giving me the forum, helping me set up the special guest, and of course, thanks to Mark Ritchie for coming on the show, having no idea who I am, and trusting in me that I would not lead him down a bad path. I think we had a great time. Thank you to the audience who hung out in the room and watched us live. And I appreciate some of you who sent in messages about things you wanted to hear about, although it was mostly Kingpin, so we talked about Kingpin a little bit. So without further ado, here is live from the Texas Pinball Festival with Mr. Mark Ritchie. This will be the episode 150 of Coast to Coast Pinball, recorded live at the Texas Pinball Festival, so that's very fun. I want to thank everybody from Ed and the whole crew at the Texas Pinball Festival for having us out, putting on a great show. I also want to awesomely welcome my very special guest to Coast to Coast Pinball, Mr. Mark Ritchie. Give Mark Ritchie a round of applause.
Thank you.
Mark has no idea who I am, so don't screw this up for me, you people. This is on you. I thought it would be a lot of fun to kind of celebrate the Texas Pinball Festival, celebrate the resurgence of pinball, celebrate my show a little bit with episode 150 by having someone like Mark come on the show. I think it's a great time. We've got some notes. What we're thinking here is we're going to go through a little bit of Mark's career. We're going to talk about the history of the games. We're going to talk about what Mark does right now. We'll open it up to questions at the end for sure. If you're planning on asking questions, you should come forward and join the conversation. But first of all, I want to say to Mark hello, and I want to ask you, what is it like coming to a Texas Pinball Festival in this size thing in 2015, having been out of pinball for quite a while, and seeing what you're seeing out on the floor?
In a word, awesome.
Pretty awesome?
Awesome, yeah. I think it's great. I'm seeing a lot of new stuff, a lot of new entrepreneurial things going on that are just awesome. I mean, it's a great time for pinball, I think. When I was doing it, it was a different world. It was basically anything we produced, we made, we sold minimum 5,000 units. It was like no big deal. 5,000 was a low number. And, now if you sold 5,000, you'd be king of the world. So that's a huge change, huge swing in things now for me. But again, just to see all the innovation, all the things that are going on, it's mind-blowing. It's exciting.
Did you ever feel like pinball was going to be dead?
No.
No?
I kind of always thought that it would kind of do exactly what it did. We knew that people were dropping out of it, kind of losing interest. When the generation started changing up while I was doing it, I noticed that. Toward the end of my career, I noticed, a huge drop. Everything kind of just fell off in Europe first, then in the States, and little by little, you just watched the decline, sort of. But I knew you guys were out there, and that somehow the collector community was going to pull it back. That was the only thing that could do it. We don't have players anymore, so you guys are it.
It is really, we talk about that a lot on the show, this shift from building for operators, building for, making money. I make fun sometimes that I read the flyers from back in the heyday, and the flyers that were selling the games were, you'll make more money, do your tracking better of your scores. And now we don't hear any of that.
Nope, not at all. It's no longer an operator's dream business. At that time, they were literally scooping money out of the cash boxes. Early 90s was insane. Almost any game we made, minimally, you'd be looking at a 5,000 unit run. That's minimally.
Minimum.
I mean, you guys know how many games were sold back in the day, So,
we're following up the Spooky Pinball folks who just did a seminar here at the Texas Pinball Festival, and hearing them throw around, 150 game caps, 300 game caps, and they're pretty happy with those numbers because the model is shifted. It's not a big giant
Absolutely.
corporation; it's a few guys. Is that? How do you look at that, having worked at really the pinnacle, and then seeing the fall off of pinball and seeing it come back up? What would that be like for you, do you think?
In this day and age, very challenging. It's a different world for me. When I was doing it, I tried to keep things on the side of, okay, here's an average guy who's going to walk up and play my game. Should I make the rules 20 feet deep, or should I get him into the game, let him have a good time, maybe win an extra ball, maybe a special, and call it a day?
Call it a day. Move
That's
on to the
what I
next
did,
one.
and I stuck with that. And I think a lot of people have said, "Well, how come your games aren't deeper? Why aren't your rules deeper?" Nowadays, I'd have to do that, and that would be a huge challenge for me, no question about it, because I just didn't design that way,
Your career is really interesting because you sort of have this full circle career. You started with Atari, correct?
Correct.
You come to pinball and you work for this great company that was Williams in pinball, and now you find yourself back at a company called Play Mechanics, working back sort of in arcade. What's that like? What's your attachment to the video medium versus the pinball physical medium?
I find it really challenging. They keep me constantly challenged. The stuff they give me to do. I mean, I think I'm a pretty valuable guy there. I think so. I don't
That's
know.
what they told me. I mean,
Feels like it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I think, my relationship there has been great. I'm working with two of my brothers from another mother, who I like to call them. That is George Petro and Eugene Jarvis. Also two of my favorite people, and I'm really fortunate to be able to work there, given the great career I had as a pinball designer. And, it challenges me. So,
for reference for the listeners and those in attendance, what's the current project that's out on the market that you would see that you might have worked on?
Aliens.
Aliens
is our current gun game.
It's a shooter game.
Yep.
How long? What's the build cycle on a game like that?
Build cycle or design cycle?
Design to market.
Roughly 18 months.
18 months. So
12 to 18 months, depending on what it is. Some are a little bit shorter, but no less than 12 months.
Interesting. That's great. I want to go all the way back right now. I want to go back to you starting out in pinball.
Okay.
I think we should give some of the backstory, give the history of how you wound up working at Williams and designing physical pinball machines. And had you dreamt of it? Had you thought about it? Or did you just find yourself doing it?
I never dreamt that I would be a pinball designer. When I started at Atari, I started as a line worker, a common guy out of high school. This is 1976. And I think the first game I worked on there was a video game called Atari Football. And I was an assembler, and I was putting trackballs in the games and that kind of thing. And then they started talking about opening up a pinball division. And they were taking people out of existing departments to do that. And I went, I want to do that. My brother was already in there. He was already designing. I think he'd done Airborne Avenger at that point.
Did you want to work in pinball because your brother was there or because you liked pinball?
I love pinball. I loved it. First time I saw it, I loved it. And I can tell you how that happened. One Thanksgiving, while Steve was working at Atari, he brought home a Captain Fantastic, and it was in our garage for the weekend. And I think I got like no sleep that weekend and played I don't know how many hundreds of games. We had a game in our house, it was free play, unheard of. And that's what really hooked me. After that, I thought, I could do this.
That's awesome.
This looks fun, and I could do it, and I would like to do it.
So should we touch on the Atari foray or attempt at pinball here?
Sure we can.
Okay, so what did you work on? What was produced?
When I got in there, they were building, first game was Atarians.
Atarians, okay.
Yeah, and it was a complete disaster.
Okay.
We had several problems with materials. We were buying plywood from Chicago. The games were coming in. They'd assembled just fine, but then for some odd reason, the games would come back to Atari in pieces. We had to basically fill all the holes because what had happened was they had sold us shitty plywood.
Bad plywood.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the inside plies were useless. So when you ran a screw into it, a couple of vibrations later, The assemblies would literally be hanging off the play field by the cable.
Wow.
So we had that whole fun thing happen. Then we went back and rebuilt those games and sent them back out. It's too late. Once you make a mistake like that, you're done. Okay? So we tried.
Because that's Atari trying to go up against Gottlieb, Bally, Williams.
Yep. The big four, and they were evil.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, I don't know. I don't know that that happened by their design, or if it just happened. You know, who knows?
But you're right. A mistake is.
But it was a disaster
Definitely,
for them.
yeah.
The worst idea in the world was to buy plywood from Chicago.
Wow.
So, yeah. After that, we got a little bit smarter, and we got rid of rotary coils, which was another horrible mistake for Atari. They had no power. They were gutless. They were shitty. Everyone hated them. So we changed that up. We got the Superman. By the time we got the Superman, we had pretty much gotten all the crud out of the game.
Yeah, there's a Superman on location in New Hampshire. I still play when I see it.
There were 2 at the show.
Yeah,
2 here.
it's a good game. It's fun.
So at that point, we said, okay, let's not worry about trying to be over innovative. Let's get the displays back up on the back box, because we had this goofy lower arch, and under the apron, we had 4-player displays, which were about that big. You needed reading glasses to see what your score was.
So everything was down in front instead.
First generation of games all had that.
Wow.
So we eventually evolved out of that, got things back up on the back box, got things together. Took the hardware off the bottom of the cabinet. That's another disaster. Remember I was talking about the screws that fell out?
Yeah.
Well, they wind up right down on the boards and short everything out.
Oh.
So, yeah, disaster.
You don't know what you don't know, I guess.
Right.
So
by the time I got to Williams, I was a very smart guy.
Very smart guy. So speaking about very smart guy, let's talk about Thunderball.
That wasn't very smart.
No, it's not very smart.
I started, when I got to Williams, I started as a technician.
Yep.
I did that for about 2 years. They gave me an opportunity to design my first game.
Was that something you were waiting to do? Were you watching the other designers?
I was dying to do it.
I've got it in my head. I know what I would do.
I started drawing that game. I think I was there 6 months and started drawing it on my own time. And brought it to Mike Stroll, and I said, I want to make this game. Can I do it? He goes, yeah, you can try it. He was a great proponent of let the young guy see what the young guy's got in his brain. Let's see what happens. You know, very energetic and very, very courageous guy at that time. And so he entrusted me in a team, and we put Thunderball together, and it was a unqualified disaster.
Didn't work.
It worked.
It worked.
Nobody played it. Nobody liked it. It was just.
Did it actually go out on test? Did you put games out in the field to test it?
Oh yeah, we tested it in 2 different locations. We built 10 prototypes, but the problem was I put too much into the game at one time. We had too many innovations, too many things.
Were you just too eager on your first game?
Yeah, it was just totally unconventional.
Yeah.
And absolutely, I wanted to make, put a stake in the ground.
Yeah.
And I think it did that. I was able to make a second game, so.
Absolutely, and your second game's an interesting one, because obviously it's Firepower 2, which is the sequel to, one of the big titles of that era, designed by your brother.
Yep.
What was that like, deciding to use Firepower as the base theme, and then using that sort of as the building blocks of the design, and then obviously working off of that?
At that time, I had teched on Firepower. So I was junior to Steve and learned everything I could learn from him. He was the best teacher I ever had, still is, in terms of, shot coordination, geometry, where to put things, how to make the ball move, have flow, and keep everything sort of on an even balance across the play field. So Steve was very influential, and that game really did it for me. And I thought, this is the way to do this. I'm gonna take this game, and I'm gonna take the hard stuff out of it, because again, I wanted to appeal to
that game is hard.
The incoming player.
Yep.
And I think Firepower 2 did a pretty good job of that. That was my goal. 2-ball multi-ball, first time for that.
You could get right to the multi-ball.
And at the time, I wanted to make things accessible. So,
adding a ramp, was that a big thing at the time? I mean, to us nowadays, it's like, there's a ramp on the game, no big deal. But what was that like in 1983?
I think the only game, there were a few games that had ramps. One was Xenon, and I really liked the way that game played. And I kind of I looked at that and I thought, I don't want to do a tube, but it'd be cool to get the balls to lock up on the other side and flow through or whatever. I think I locked them on Sorcerer, actually. I apologize for that. Oops. Brain fart.
It's all right. It was a long time ago.
But that was the same shot, same part.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, I wanted just a little something different so it wasn't exactly firepower, you know. And
were you playing all the other games at the time that were coming out?
oh, yeah.
Were you spending a lot of time? Were you playing them in-house, or were you guys going out and playing pinball?
I was playing in-house and out. I was playing everybody's games. Anything. Mother's Pinball was a great place to go for that. This guy was local in the Chicago area, in one of the suburbs. But you could go there, and the guy had every new test game there was. He had everybody's, Premier, Gottlieb, Stern, Bally. Anything new was in that location. Because that's where you went, that's where you tested, that's where we tested. So you had I could see any game I wanted, which was very fortunate. I think I was very fortunate to be able to do that.
I like Firepower 2 because, obviously Firepower is a great place to start, but Firepower 2's art package is really pretty and really, it stands out, it jumps out at you a lot. It looks and I'm sure in 1983 it looked even more so, kind of modern and big and bold. Who did the art on that game?
Connie Mitchell, same artist that did Firepower originally. And he wanted to correct things about the art that he felt.
So he kind of got to do it again.
Right. Yeah, we did. Yeah. I think we made it. It is what it is.
Next at Williams, you sort of stepped sideways and got to build the first ever solid state controlled pitch and bat game, which was Pennant Fever.
Right.
How did that come back up? I mean, obviously baseball's an American pastime. Pitch and bat had a deep history in gaming. What was the conversation? How did you get assigned to build the modern Williams pitch and bat?
Steve Kordak brought that idea to me, and he said, it would be damn good if we could do something like this again with the electronics and the capabilities that we have. I said, I'll do it. I volunteered. And I liked baseball. I played baseball when I was a kid. Just have a special place for baseball. And I grabbed it, and, we at that point we had plasma displays. We had all kinds of new stuff that nobody had ever seen on a baseball game. We all sat around and went, yeah, sure, let's do it. What was cool about those was that it was a seasonal thing. And historically, Williams their slow period would be basically springtime through fall. So that was an opportune time to have these pitch and bat games. And so we enjoyed limited success with them. I'm not going to say we made millions of dollars, but we was able to keep the lines moving and sort of through the summer months, which I think was helpful.
Got to be building something.
And those games were always fun to me. And I had a place in my heart.
Absolutely, absolutely. Your next title is a game that's actually right on the other side of this wall in a tournament right now. I don't know if you saw it's being used in the retro tournament, and that's Sorcerer.
Wow.
Talk a little bit about Sorcerer, because it's a game that I find pretty challenging myself when I go back and play that era of game, and there's seemingly a lot going on.
Sorcerer was kind of a fight for me because it had three different titles before it ever became Sorcerer. It was a Western theme.
A Western theme.
At one point, it was going to be a samurai game.
Okay.
And at one point, it was, I forget what the last one was, but we settled on Road Kings, and that was through a couple of people. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun here. Sorcerer.
My notes are in a slightly off third grader scribble scratch. You got to be careful with my notes. Sorcerer.
Sorry. Aging is a wonderful thing. Anyway, Sorcerer. Yeah. My wife was a huge fan of my new wife at that time. We had been married, I think, about a year. And she was a fan of mystical things, wizards. So I thought, I'm going to do this for her.
So did you kind of create that theme in your head going into that game?
Yeah.
You were talking about the game that eventually became Road Kings. Started out as a Western theme,
right.
Which when you say that, I kind of go, oh man, I wish we'd had a Western theme from that era. That would be really cool.
Right.
And then Samurai, which, again, kind of another maybe untapped theme of sorts.
Totally.
And then we ended up at Road Kings, which was kind of a play on Mad Max.
Yep, exactly. The idea for that, the concept came from a new artist we had hired, a guy by the name of Tim Elliott, who went on to do some other things. One of them was Millionaire. He was an artist. And I used to listen a lot to other people in the company. maybe too much sometimes.
Yeah.
But at that point, we thought it was a great idea. And in the wake of the Mad Max movies, he was a huge fan. I thought, that could be cool. That solves a lot of problems. And so
having a game that has to shift themes like that, was the game already designed and you were just kind of overlaying, new art and new ideas, or was it changing all at once?
I had the playfield was pretty much. I think I moved the ramp and added the lift feature on the ramp at that point.
These were probably System 8 games, right? System 11 yet?
I think so.
When did we get to System 11? Is that Big Guns?
Believe so, yeah.
Okay, so switching through these systems, did that affect you as a designer at all as Solid State was evolving?
Absolutely.
Give me an example of something where it was like, okay, well, now we're doing this, or we have this at our disposal. It will make us be able to do this.
In Big Gun's case, this is a weird story. I don't like telling it, but again, I listen to people. Outside influences a lot sometimes aren't the best thing to do.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's absolutely the best thing to do. In this case, it wasn't, and we ended up raising the back box on Big Guns.
Yeah, there's one out there,
right,
and it stands out like a sore thumb.
Right, and that was a Python decision. I fought it.
But it's the artist's work. The artist must have his work.
This guy has a vision, and I'm going to go along with it. But as a result of that, we lost sales in France on that game. They liked the game. They couldn't put it in any locations. Too tall.
Little small bars and pubs and buildings without the
Those displays at that point caused him to do that. And I said, we don't have to make it that tall. Let's lower it. No, man. It has to be, the whole castle and, that all crazy stuff.
How does that work at a company like Williams, who's sort of in mode of building something a certain way, to just say, we're going to add 4 inches to the top of this game?
They didn't like it anymore.
They weren't happy.
I did. Nah. They were beating on me, and I tried to beat on Python and got nowhere. And
but Python
would beat
won.
on Python, and then they gave up.
I think you sort of deserve credit, Mark, because we're seeing this rebuilt, re-envisioned, not really re-envisioned, but a remade Medieval Madness out there. Attack the castle, beat the castle. Big Guns was kind of the original Attack the Castle game, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Where did that theme come from? Was that your idea? Or?
Yes. The attacking the castle was my idea. Python, we kind of worked on that one together. He loved it. I loved it. It was one of the few times we saw eye to eye on a particular, direction for a game.
For the game.
So, yeah. We didn't always see eye to eye.
I can imagine. The next game that we get to in your career is, to me, sort of the hallmark Mark Ritchie moment, in my mind at least, getting into pinball when I was younger, and that's Taxi. I mean, Taxi is a all-time classic game. It can be brutally difficult to play, but so rewarding to score well on. We see the crossing ramps in Taxi.
Right. First time.
Where did you come up with that? Was it just spur of the moment?
I wanted to build a highway because we had the expressway idea. I think that game, the first thing we were going to do was we had the airport idea, believe it or not, before it was going to be Taxi. We were going to do something with an airport or airplanes.
Okay.
And I had this action going on. It was great. It was fun by itself. And Taxi evolved. We started talking one night. I think with Python, you had to go to a bar. Okay?
Yeah.
You couldn't talk about anything unless you had a bottle of vodka, a couple of beers, whatever. But the sketches are going on the bar. We have to call it. I have it. We call it Taxi.
Taxi.
And he, came up with that name, and it's great. It was great.
This was sort of a little. You had this run of 3 games where Python did the backglass artwork. Did he do the playfield artwork on these games as well? So he was doing the whole package.
Hand drawn. Every bit of it.
Who chose the passengers to pick up in the Taxi?
Both of us.
Both of you guys came up with that?
Collective decision. Yeah.
Were there any that didn't make the cut? Did you have any special ones you wanted in?
Nope.
First,
I threw Dracula in there.
Dracula is yours?
Because I wanted to pay homage to Python.
Absolutely. It's funny that you were the one that picked Dracula. That's great.
He goes, why Dracula? I go, because he's Romanian. Why not?
And he liked it, I'm sure.
Oh, he loved it.
How did Mikhail Gorbachev
Python.
That's Python?
Oh, yeah, that was a huge influence on him when that was going on, when
all the 80s politics,
buddies, and he put Reagan in Comet, and that was definitely a big thing for him because he grew up in Eastern Europe, where at that time when he was living there, everything you were completely suppressed. He had no freedom. The Russian regime or whoever was over there pretty much thumbs down on everybody who was in that area. So he didn't have any love for the Russians. I heard about that a lot.
Police Force was next, and I think the story's been told many times that Police Force was originally intended to be Batman.
Correct.
So talk about finding out as you're into the design of Police Force, or excuse me, Batman, that you don't have this license to build and changes need to happen.
I think Roger Sharp either was not in the picture at Williams or very soon after that was in the picture. I don't think we ever had a shot at it for that reason. But I was all about it. I wanted to use the comic book Batman. The movie was in production at that time, but I thought, why not? Let's do the comic, But there's a huge, obviously, that wasn't going to fly.
Yeah.
So we never got to second base. You know what I'm saying? So they were told, no licensing. We're not going to do it. Not now. I think the company was probably not into. They didn't have Roger, so the machine wasn't in place yet for that. You know what I mean? So we ended up. Python came up with a complete crazy police force with animals and this and that, and
the taxi makes a reappearance on the back glass.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. So that was inspired by Python largely. Barry Osler also worked on that game. There was 3 of us involved in it. So
were there teams working on games regularly at Williams?
Mm-hmm.
Was that pretty common? Did you have your hand in other games that maybe we don't know of you being attached to?
I was asked to do little things in other games, mostly speaking parts, speech. I think I sang in Riverboat Gambler.
That is the rumor. So we can confirm that is you.
Right. A lot of people think I made that game. I did not make that game. I sang on it, but I did not make it.
Well, maybe they mean that your singing made that game. Ooh, see, there we go.
Maybe, I don't know.
So let's talk about Diner. Diners, to a lot of people, sort of Taxi Part 2, very similar rule set, very similar concepts and ideas, but maybe a little deeper, next level. What do you think of Diner versus Taxi and how that came about? And how did you, I mean, thinking about it today in 2015 and the way, we talk about themes and licensed themes, original themes, and people are doing Walking Dead and, zombie games and this and that. Diner. It's almost sort of, I don't know, old world friendly in a way. It's a game based about a diner.
Yep. I was always into sort of the nostalgic side of things. I don't know. I had a part of me that I was influenced by that. My wife and I took a trip to Dearborn, Michigan, and went to the museum there, and I saw this really cool life-size train car, Pullman car diner that was inside the museum. And when I saw that thing, I thought, I have to make a game about this. I've seen this in movies. I mean, this is a natural for people's game rooms. It's going to look cool, and I wanted to make a purely nostalgic piece. And the rules came, obviously, we had enjoyed success with
Taxi.
The simplicity of serve this customer this food right now, which was very much like Taxi.
Yep.
Taxi was simpler, but here it was, somebody would call, hey, give me the cheeseburger and this and that. So we thought flowed really nicely and kind of worked.
And you could carry over things to the next ball, which is the saving grace for poor players like myself.
Right.
That's a good thing. I like to do a thing on my show, if anybody here listens to the show, called Versus. And I quickly scrambled together a Versus, Diner versus Taxi in my head, because they've always been very linked in my head. So I'm going to run this by you, and you tell me if I'm off base here. Okay, so theme. I have to side with Taxi a little bit. Do you have a particular theme you would like better in your head, Diner or Taxi, if you were just going up to play a pinball machine?
Man, I'd have to go with Taxi.
Taxi, okay. Aha, see, I'm with Mark on one for one. Layout and design, this one's a little trickier because they are very similar. I actually go Diner here because I think the drop target's add a layer to me. As the designer of both games, which one were you happier with at the end of the day when all said and done?
Definitely the target play, I think, was far superior on Diner.
Okay, see, I'm 2 for 2 with Mark. We got this.
The target play, well, drop targets are cool. I mean,
Here's a tough one, and I you may not even want to answer this one. Artwork, because they're very different, very, very beautiful, both of them. I think Taxi has this certain kind of vibe to it, and it's dark on the glass.
The vibe is called weird.
Weird, maybe. And then Diner is this beautiful, like, red Americana type of thing. Is there one that pops out in your head ahead of the game, ahead of each other?
Yeah, Diner takes that one.
Okay, I like it. Sound and call-outs and whatnot. Diner's actually a tiny bit controversial at times because there's stuff that could be, I think in the modern day, would be thought of as maybe not politically correct.
Oh, yeah.
Do you like that?
Yeah,
is that fun?
Yeah. If you can, I mean, to me, if you can create controversy and keep it lasting and entertain people, you've done your job. Okay,
so Diner wins that one hands down because it's fun like that. I like that. Gameplay, I think I go with Diner just because I can carry over, items into the next ball. Would you tend to agree with me there, or do you like the brutality of Taxi?
Oh, I love the brutality.
You like the brutality?
I absolutely.
All right, well, we'll call it one a tie.
It's a fight. I like games of fight back.
It is a fight. That game was actually in the Papa C Division Bank, so I played it virtually. Got all ready, thought I had it all set, and then stepped up to it and just choked and choked.
Totally different.
Oh, man. That game's hard. The game is hard.
Never play a fake version of a real game.
No, you're
and expect to win. You can't do that.
This is a smart man here.
Those things are junk.
Which one in 2015 stands up to you?
Stands up.
I mean, I think they both do, but which one do you think is the more, I don't know, lasting game, lastability factor?
I think Taxi.
Taxi?
For me.
That's where my check mark was. And then value, I think value is a silly question in this format because I think I put check marks for both because they're both great games. So I think we have a tie here on the whole Diner versus Taxi. I think they're both great games. Thank you for going through that with me. That sort of closes out to me like this certain era, and I guess that's the alphanumeric display era for you. We move into WPC games, and probably your two most, I think, thought of games. When I say Mark Ritchie or told people Mark Ritchie, they said either this game or the next one right off the bat is, oh, I love that game. And that's Fishtails being the first one. Talk about how we got a fishing game out of Williams in 1992.
What a fight. We basically pitched it, Python and I, and Pat McMahon, who was also in on the concept.
Were you guys actively fishing?
Yes, we were. We went on a fishing trip. I think by the time we got down to Lake Michigan, we were going to do a charter trip, go out, get inspired, make a game, I think we got, instead of inspired, we couldn't get out that day because it was too rough. So instead of getting inspired, we got really drunk. And we sat on the back of the boat in Belmont Harbor. It was Python, myself, Pat McMahon, and Tony Kramer. And the four of us sat out there and scratched out that game. And you could do this, you could do that. And it was a great time, And we remembered everything.
That's great.
That was the best part. The next day, we remembered all of it.
So, who was mad enough at water skiers to think, I wish I could shoot torpedoes at them? That was you?
that came from an experience my father and I had when I was a kid. I used to go fishing with my dad a lot. And we'd be out in a little, 16-foot John boat with a 12-horse motor and out on the lake. And this is California. You fish in reservoirs a lot in California. So out come the water skiers at 11 o'clock in the morning. And we're out in this little cove. We're catching a couple of little guys. Nothing huge, but, they're hitting. Whoa! My dad turns to me and goes, son of a bitch. Wouldn't it be great if we had a torpedo? We could blow those bastards out of the water.
So you got to do it. You got to do it. It's an homage to your dad. That's great. Yeah. I have made lots of jokes on my show about fishtails because I'm so bad at it. And part of it is the rule set is a great risk-reward balance. And I know that at that time you were actually having a ton of influence on the rule set of the game. Talk about Fishtails as far as from designing the play field and the physics and also integrating the rules as you saw it.
That was something that I think I finally figured out at that point as a designer, the risk-reward factor. You hit that on the head because the game was all about that. And that center shot, it's a huge button. Big red button.
It's right there.
And everybody's going to go. I mean, we didn't put that there to screw people. But the values that were put on there were pretty high. You could get into things. You could get the video mode where you could win an extra ball and instant multi-ball. And it was just a great place to put, high-value shots. The multi-ball was another favorite thing, and building the jackpots and having to repeat those shots. This is not something that I planned on, but that when the ball would come around the outside, come down to the left flipper, you could snap the ball right into the box, into the lock box. And there was something that was not planned.
Yeah.
That just happened.
Just
so
the
once
magic
we
of the
saw
physics
that, when we
happened
saw that happening on a repetitive basis, we're like, okay, we need to take advantage of that right now. So you get like I think 1 million points, then 2, then 3, and it would continue to build every time you did it. And
so you were able to rewrite some of the rules as you saw the gameplay developing?
Oh, yeah. I didn't rewrite them. I was done with Mark Panaccio, and he and I I would suggest one thing. It was back and forth. It wasn't one. They're never one person. None of the stuff is.
Who dreamt up the middle, the crossing, the U shots? Because was that out of your mind?
That was out of my mind. Yeah, I was out of my mind when I thought of that.
Was that something specifically for fishtails, or had you been thinking about?
No,
that
I had a completely different idea for the boat shots. Originally, I had an actual model boat with an ice cooler that would open and close. And the idea was you would lock. This is before we had the rod and reel and all that stuff. You would lock the balls into the cooler.
Into the cooler. Wow.
Right. Up the ramp, and then boom, and the door would close.
Fishtails too. I see it. I can envision it.
Yeah, maybe.
Limited edition, with the cooler. What about the topper? Where did that come from?
That came from this craze that was going on here. I think it was called Billy Bass.
The singing fish.
It was a motorized fish that would sing. So we saw that and we're going to do that. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
The solenoid, we were going to do it with a motor initially, but the solenoid created so much. That's bitching. We need to put that in the game. So we did.
It was a great answer to the Whirlwind fan, I think.
Right.
I think that was nice. The next game, and I had quite a few people, email on these next two games actually. Indiana Jones. So Indiana Jones is really an interesting one because A, it's a wide body game. B, it's the only game on this list that's a licensed theme.
Yep.
How did you get that project? Were you excited for Indiana Jones? Were you a fan of the films?
We would have weekly meetings at that point, and Roger would come down with a list of, hey, I've got this stuff available. And I went, I want that. Doug Watson said, I want that. Brian Eddy said, I want that. So all four of us basically ganged up together. We were a street gang at that point, basically, to get that license.
Yeah.
So we went after it, and we got it. I got a crack at it. So that was a very exciting day for me.
So what's it like on day one of I got this game, and did you know it was going to be a wide-body game? Was that already slated to keep doing the wide-body pins?
Yep.
So what's that like day one? I've been designing games for 10 years now, and they've been this. Now I've got to do this.
It was an amazing opportunity for me.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'd never had a license, so it was awesome. The wide-body factor I welcomed with open arms because it wasn't the Atari wide or the Bally wide. It was the manageable wide,
yep,
where you could get an actual extra 2 shots out of that width if you played your cards right. Okay, I pushed it on Indiana Jones. The shots are tight, I know that.
They're tight.
I hear it every day, but the game's fun.
It's fun.
Still fun.
And it's challenging.
Yeah.
How involved with the rule set on Indiana Jones were you as that went through?
Heavily.
Mm-hmm. That's
Doug Watson was very influential on the rule sets and did a lot of work on that. I have to give him credit because he worked up the mode system. He and Brian Eddy basically were responsible for making that all work and tie into the playfield that I had built. I didn't have a lot to do with that part of it. I did have a lot to do with the fact that I wanted the 3 movies up front.
All 3 movies?
In fact, we had to fight for that. Originally, when we went to get the license, Lucasfilm was very insistent on us doing the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. I don't know if you remember when that was out on TV.
I do, yeah.
They were trying to push that. Nobody wanted it. Nobody cared about it. Even TV audience didn't really care.
That was not a success.
It failed.
Yeah.
So we had to really fight to get the 3 movies at that point. This is 1993, so the movies had came and gone, and they were pushing this new product. So,
have you gotten a chance to play one with the with some of the? There's color DMD for Indiana Jones now, correct?
Yeah.
Somebody in the audience tell me I'm not crazy. Have you gotten a chance to check that out?
I did.
What do you think of that? You like that?
I ordered one.
Did you order one?
I am ordering one.
So you have an Indiana Jones, I take
do.
it. What other games do you have at home?
Fishtails.
Fishtails and Indiana Jones.
That's it.
That makes sense. That's
all I got.
Okay, so the single most, I asked my listeners a couple episodes ago, let me know if there's anything you want me to ask Mark. I think I had 7 emails that said, ask him about Kingpin. Ask him about Capcom Kingpin, the game that never was. There's this thing in this hobby where I think we always chase the game that we didn't get to play, and for years it might have been Big Bang Bar, and now there's over 100 of those out there. Kingpin seems to be the one that people have in the back of their heads, like, oh, maybe someday they'll remake Kingpin.
Right.
A few people have played it at shows. What's the story of Kingpin as you see it? Tell us about it as a game, and would you like to see it come to light someday?
Yeah, well, the original story behind Kingpin, I guess that was another evolutionary game that started off as something completely different. It was eventually going to be a casino game, originally going to be a casino game. And I think Stern had come out with their Joe Balser's Casino, whatever the heck it was.
Yeah.
So we abandoned that. That it was early on. We had just done sketches, and we didn't really have a hardline play field at that point. And then after that, I latched onto the gangster theme, and so we started on that path and did the whole. One thing that kind of fell together really nicely. It was the story of the kid who starts out as the young punk working for the big gangsters, working his way up the ladder. That worked great. I thought that was a great element for the game.
Yeah.
So we stuck with that, built it. We built 10 prototypes. Originally, the game was a timed game. You played against time.
Is that a good idea for a pinball machine?
A horrible idea.
Horrible idea.
Horrible.
What was
I
the
should
thought
have known
process?
better because I made that mistake with Thunderball.
With Thunderball, yeah.
15 years earlier.
Yeah.
I told the agent.
It brought you in and it took you out, sort of, in a way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So we reverted back and went back to a conventional 3-ball game. And it was magic. It was really fun. The speech all came together, and the game all of a sudden became, I thought, pretty fun, comparable to anything else out there at the time. So I was pretty proud of it.
Pretty disappointed that it didn't get into production.
Totally.
Our
Our lives were over at that point.
But we're still here.
Right. Well, I thought so.
No, there's no inside information here, nothing that's rumor mill or anything, but would you like to see somebody build that game still?
I would.
Possible?
Anything's possible.
Okay, I like that. All right. I think we should also, you went to work for IT, which was I don't want to screw the name up.
Incredible Technologies.
Incredible. I was thinking Intelligent. Incredible Technologies.
Great people. Absolutely great people.
The golf games, correct? The
Golden Tee.
Golden Tee, thank you. And you worked on a video pinball game for them, and that was based with the theme of the Orange County Choppers, which was big at the time.
I did.
Tell me what your take is on, in general, video-based pinball and how that game came to be and didn't come to be.
I was really inspired to do something with that company. They had treated me more than fair, and honestly, I had a great relationship with Elaine, who runs the company.
Yep.
Elaine Heisen. She's a great person, and she gave me the opportunity to do that. She'd always liked pinball, and I think she did that. I think she did it to make me happy, because I think that I wasn't involved in a real game there. I didn't have my own, because golf was everything, and we'd done stuff with Big Buck Hunter, which I was working with Play Mechanics. I was acting as a producer between Play Mechanics and Incredible Technologies when Buck Hunter was a baby. I'm talking the very first version.
Early days before
Right.
it blew up
Right.
into this big phenomenon.
So I was doing that, and then this kind of came after that. And she said, I want you to do this. And I said, okay. So our first idea was to have a Harley Davidson license. But Stern had that tied up.
Yep.
You couldn't get anywhere near that. And it had exclusivity on it. So Orange County Choppers came into play. The show was popular, and we thought, let's build motorcycles, it'd be fun. So that's how that happened. And then from there, I worked with a really talented guy, programmer at IT, a guy by the name of Tony DeFeo, who put everything together, believed in it. We all believed in it at the time. You have to be careful not to drink too much bad Kool-Aid sometimes. But at that time, I wanted to do something. I wanted to have my name on a game and have something that I could put my signature on, you know. And I think that's what drove me to do that at that point. Right or wrong, video pinball, that's a horrible thing. But
it's bringing
it
a lot
great
of people into
experience.
pinball. Honestly, I have not been super deep into video pinball, and I've been called out for it by listeners saying, no, that's the only way I ever found your silly podcast and all of this because I downloaded a pinball app on my phone.
Wow.
And it's a big deal. We saw a project earlier. We were looking at the P3 project earlier and got to see sort of the insides of that games, and it's pretty impressive. What's your thoughts on, you obviously work for a company that would be more than capable of getting into that realm if they so chose. What's your take on pinball? Let me not use the word reduced. Shifted over into the both video medium and also the combination video / real pinball.
I think it's a very creative idea. I think a lot can be done with it. I think it needs a little more work.
Not quite there yet.
No, I don't think so. It's interesting at this point. Certainly, someone could make a game with that. It's hard for me to put my finger on what I would do if I was in that spot. I'd have to obviously have it, play around with it, but I think you could come up. I think that you could make that work. It's pretty innovative and pretty. I can see where the screen would bring a lot to the play field, And
so that's sort of exciting to you because one of the big things, obviously, about P3 is that other people will be able to design games based on that. So that sort of gets your mind working a little bit.
Yep.
What about video pinball? Should play mechanics go down that road?
No.
Nope, not their world.
I don't believe that's the right thing to do. I don't think those games are. That's not pinball.
It's not pinball.
It's not.
There's no physical ball.
No.
That's the magic, right?
Totally.
Before we wrap up here, and we may be out of time for questions, which I'm sorry I lied to you guys. It's not the first time, won't be the last. I have a few names here that I just kind of want to throw at you, and I would love. You've gotten to work with some of the great people in pinball over the years. You are one of the great people of pinball, and I think it would be fun to just hear a quick, whatever you got, 10, 20, 30 seconds, a minute on each of these names, just for the record. And first is someone we discussed a little bit, and it's Python Angelo.
Very influential in my career, obviously. I think he's the guy that kind of opened my eyes to other ways to look at things, and other ways certainly to treat people.
Barry Ausler.
Good friend.
Good friend.
Very good friend. Very helpful. Very supportive. I could go to him. Hey Barry, what do I do? I want to move this shot here. What's the best way to do that?
I added him to the list because I've read interviews with you where you kind of alluded to that he was a great mind for that sort of stuff.
Very good. Very fast. Very fast. The fastest gun in the West.
I like it. Chris Granner.
Great. Also a good friend of mine. I have nothing but respect for him. He's made my game sound great over the years.
Yeah.
Loved working with him. My favorite composer by far.
You guys are a great team. Steve Ritchie.
He's my brother. I love him.
Love him to death, right?
I do. And he kind of was the guiding light originally for me. Like I said earlier, I think I alluded to it on Firepower. The guy knows shots, and I learned from him. He taught me things. When I was a tech, he'd say, "This is how you do this. Don't fuck it up. Put this ball guy there and do this." Blah, blah, blah,
That's awesome.
Brother. But the guy is today master of flow, no question.
That's great. Would you like to design another pinball machine?
No. Yes. No. Maybe. Yeah, I'd love to.
That's awesome.
I'd love to.
That's awesome. Mark, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out, coming out, telling the stories, talking about it. If you guys want to meet Mark, get Mark's autograph, chat with Mark, we'll have lots of time after we're done here. I appreciate you guys hanging out and listening, but we're going to wrap up Coast to Coast Pinball with Mark Ritchie. So thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
How fun was that? Mark was awesome. It was a blast to do that. I think there's some interesting stories there. It's the man who has seen it, done it, lived it, and I think it's important that we keep these these stories alive, keep it documented out there for everybody to hear and know about. A lot of fun. It was one part in the actor's studio and like one part hanging out at the bar just talking pinball with someone who knows a lot about it. So a lot of fun. That's episode 150 Coast to Coast Pinball. Really appreciate everyone who had come up to me at the show and got to chat with so many people. I met so many people. A lot of fun. We'll have another episode based on the show with a bunch of on-the-show floor interviews and whatnot in the next day or so. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. We will talk to you soon. Take care.